Good morning, dear students. Today let us continue with Act 3, Scene 5. We had stopped at page 61. Let us continue at page 62. And if you recall from the previous video, we had stopped at a point in the story when Lancelot the clown had been talking bad about Jessica's husband with her, how he was irresponsible to the Christian community, how he had helped in the rise of price of pork because he had assisted or helped in the conversion of a Jew like her to become a Christian. At that point of time, Lorenzo had entered the scene. So Lorenzo had seen them both speak with each other, and this is what he had to say. Jessica, on seeing her husband come, she told Lancelot that she would complain all that he had been telling her regarding her damnation and how responsible her husband had been to the Christian community, being a Christian himself. "I'll tell my husband," Jessica said. "Lancelot, what you say here, he comes." He had seen her husband coming their way towards them. And Lorenzo says, "I shall grow jealous of you shortly, Lancelot, if you thus get my wife into corners." And he said that he would really be disappointed with him and he would be unhappy with him if he would find him again talking to his wife in private without him being present around. Then Jessica went on to say, "Nay, you need not fear us, Lorenzo. Lancelot and I are out. He tells me flatly there's no mercy for me in heaven because I am a Jew's daughter, and he says you are no good member of the Commonwealth, for in converting Jews to Christians you raise the price of pork." So she went on to complain to him. First she said that there was no need for him to fear them being together, talking to each other, because she had argued with him, they had quarreled and they had fallen out. She was not going to speak to him as she was unhappy with him, and she went on to tell her husband why she had quarreled with him and she was unhappy and she had decided not to talk to him. She had complained to him that Lancelot the clown had very boldly, without any hesitation, had said to her that she was damned, that she would not be saved from the fires of hell, and God would not have any mercy on her, that her soul would not receive salvation. She would burn in the fires of hell eternally for being the Jew's daughter, for being Shylock's daughter. And he says you are no good member of the Commonwealth. And she went on to complain to him that Lancelot the clown had disparaged, D-I-S-P-A-R-A-G-E-D, disparaged, talked bad about, disparaged against him, saying that he was not a good Christian in the sense he hadn't done good for the Christian community. He had in fact been irresponsible, causing damage to the Christian community. Why? Because he had helped in the rise of the price of pork by helping to convert a Jew like her to become a Christian. And then Lancelot in reply said, "I shall answer that better to the Commonwealth than you can the getting up of the Negro's belly. The moor is with child by you, Lancelot." The moor, M-O-O-R, moor, M-O-O-R. So, we'll come back to this word. Let us see what Lorenzo had said in reply. So, he, in trying to defend his prestige, his esteem and his honor, he felt a little hurt with what he had heard the clown had said about him. So he went on to say that he would be able to better answer his actions, justify himself to the Christian community of which he was a part than what the clown could do to explain his action, justify himself for having gotten the Moor impregnated or pregnant with his child in her womb and her belly swelling up each day or swelling up as time was progressing. And he used the word moon. Moon means he was talking about this Negro girl, this maid servant Negro girl who worked in Portia's household. She had been impregnated by what Lorenzo said, Lancelot the clown, and he said, how would he be justifying himself to the Christian community of which he too was a part of, just like Lorenzo was a Christian, Lancelot too was a Christian. How would he explain his sinful act of having gotten the Moor, the black, the Negro servant girl or maid pregnant with his child in her womb and her belly swelling up each day? So Moor again, a Negro or a woman from North Africa. So here this Negro girl who had her roots in North Africa had been impregnated by this clown. So gentlemen, let us continue. In reply to that, Lancelot said, it is much that the Moor should be more than reason, but if she be less than an honest woman, she is indeed more than I took her for. What it all meant is, he was trying to act innocent. He realized that his sinful act had been discovered and he was caught by Lorenzo. He tried to act ignorant and trying to say that he had nothing to do with that. So he said that it was much surprising and unacceptable, very unacceptable, he said. It was very surprising and unacceptable for him to note that the Moor was much more bigger than what she was supposed to have been. Referring to her pregnancy, he said that, in other words, it was very surprising to note that she was pregnant, that she was more than what she was supposed to have been. And then he went on to say that, but if she be less than an honest woman, she is indeed more than I took her for. And he went on to say that though she was a dishonest woman, but, or yet, with though we use yet, sorry for that. So, though she was a dishonest woman, yet she was more than what he had at first or initially presumed her to be. He had initially at first thought that she was a prostitute, but she proved that she was better than a prostitute. Why did he say so? Because she was brave enough to conceive a child, not only conceive a child, but be ready to give birth to the child, not like the prostitutes who usually got pregnant and had their pregnancy or the child aborted. They did not give birth to such children, but here this Moor was willing to give birth and take care of the child. So he says that though she was dishonest, yet she was more than what he had first presumed or initially presumed her to be, that she was better than a prostitute, which he at first or initially thought that she was. And then Lorenzo in reply said, "How every fool can play upon the word. I think the best grace of wit will shortly turn into silence, and discourse grow commendable in none only but parrots. Go and Sirrah, bid them prepare for dinner." So he was surprised at how intelligent this fool was, how cunning and expert he was at using the different meanings of words. So before we go on to explain what Lorenzo had said, let me just talk about this Moor, much and more. So he very cleverly used these three words and their meanings to justify that he had nothing to do and prove that he was innocent as far as the pregnancy of the Moor was concerned. Saying that he had initially presumed that she was a prostitute, he indirectly meant to say that the child could have been anyone else's, not his in particular. So he very cunningly used these words and had fun using the different meanings of these words, playing puns. Puns meaning he was using double meaning. He used these words to mean more than what their literal meaning held. So he used the meaning of the meanings of these words very cunningly to suit his cause, to suit his purpose, and he used the meanings to fit in, to help him evade and help him save himself from this complex and difficult situation which he realized that he could get in because Lorenzo had discovered what wrong he had done. So he used these words, Moor, much and more. He used puns. Puns meaning he used them with more meanings than the literal meanings of the words, with double meanings. And why did he do so? He did that just to help him get away from the difficult situation which he realized he could get in, because Lorenzo had realized what he had done, the sinful act that he had committed. Now, what had Lorenzo said to him? Lorenzo said, how every fool, he was very surprised to note how this fool very cunningly, very shrewdly, very cleverly and in an expert manner used words such as more, much more in his favor, to his advantage, to help him prove his innocence, that he had nothing to do with the Moor's pregnancy. And since he had assumed her or presumed her to be a prostitute, it could have been anybody's child, not only he. And by implying that, by indirectly meaning so, he had been able to get away from the situation. So he said how every fool like him, they use the different meanings of words to fit their purpose, to suit their purpose, to suit their cause, in their advantage, and help themselves get away from the wrong which they committed or which they commit. And then he went on to say, I think, he said, that he thought the best grace of wit will shortly turn into silence. And he said that he thought, according to him, that soon the intelligent and wise men would use silence as their identity. That the wise and intelligent men would be silent to prove that they were wise and intelligent. And this bantering or talking or speech would become a quality in parrots to be admired, a quality in parrots that would be admirable, a quality that would be admirable only in parrots, because most intelligent men would choose to be silent to prove their worth instead of bantering with no meaning and purpose. So he said that meaningful silence would prove to be better than useless talk or useless bantering or conversations. Then he went on to say the meanings of commendable means praiseworthy, something to be admired. Discourse means, see there, now turn into silence, and discourse. Discourse means this, the technical meaning of discourse is to debate, to reason. Here it means the quality of speech. Speech would only be a quality that would be admired and admirable in parrots, because intelligent men would choose to remain silent. Lancelot then says, that is done, sir. They have all stomachs. Before that, Lorenzo had gone on to tell him that he asked him, in fact, to go into the house. Sirrah means addressing him. In those days, servants were addressed as Sirrah. So he had asked him to go in, Sirrah. Bid them prepare for dinner. Who is them here? Then he referred to the other servants who were inside the house in the kitchen. They were working in the kitchen. So he asked Lancelot to go in to the kitchen inside the house and tell the other servants to get the dinner ready, prepare for dinner, to get the dinner ready, have it served. They would be coming in soon to have dinner. Lancelot said, that is done, sir. They have all stomachs. And he said, the dinner was ready. Immediately and promptly, very quickly, in a smart manner, he was ready, in the mood to play with words. So he instantly told Lorenzo that the dinner was prepared and ready. The servants, They all had stomachs. Here, stomachs, again, he is using with two different meanings. He meant to say the servants were all hungry and waiting for them to finish dinner first so that they could eat. He also meant that the servants had big appetites. Appetites meaning they could eat a lot. So, stomachs could also mean a third meaning, that they were all human beings and they too felt hungry and they too wanted to eat, so that if they could come in and have their dinner, their servants would follow to have their dinner after them. Then Lancelot in reply said, "Goodly Lord, what a whipsnapper are you? Then bid them prepare dinner." So he went on to say then that he was very surprised to note how this person, this clown, could play with words to confuse people and have his way. So he went on to say swearing on God, that he was indeed a very clever comedian, a clown, a fool. Whipsnapper means a comedian, a clown, or a fool. Admiring his ability to play with different meanings of different words. Then he said that if it was so, if he wanted to instruct him in that way, then he should indeed go inside and tell them to prepare for dinner. Prepare dinner means get the dinner cooked and ready so that it would be served soon. And Lancelot said, "That is done too, sir, only cover is the word." So he said the dinner was cooked. Lorenzo just had to use the word cover to instruct him with, to go and tell the other servants to have their heads covered with their hats and headgears, so that they would take them off when Jessica and Lorenzo would enter, as a mark of respect, to show their respect towards them. In those days it was a custom for the inferior and the servants to uncover their heads in the presence of their superiors and their masters. So he said that dinner was cooked and ready. He just had to ask him to go and inform the servants to get ready, cover their heads and be prepared to accept their masters and their master and mistress, in this case Lorenzo and Jessica, to come in, so that they would be quick enough to take off their hats and headgears to show their respect towards them. Cover is the word. And he also used this word cover in two senses. Here again, this Lancelot the clown, he used the word cover in two different senses. He meant to say first that Lorenzo should have asked him to go and tell the servants to have their heads covered, and he should have also asked him to go and tell the servants to have the table set with a tablecloth and have the food ready, covered, kept hot. So, gentlemen, here, see the word cover, that he meant to tell Lorenzo that Lorenzo should have told him to go inside and tell the servants to lay the table set, have it covered with a tablecloth, have the food ready, set on the table with a tablecloth on it. And next sense, he also meant that he is using totally a different meaning here. He says that cover, Lorenzo should have also asked him that he go inside and tell the servants to have their heads covered with their hats and headgears, so that when they would walk in, they would be ready to take off their hats and headgears to show their respect towards them. So, gentlemen, next, in reply to that, Lorenzo then said, "Will you cover then, sir?" So, earlier when Lancelot had said, that is done to sir," only cover is the word. He meant to try and teach Lorenzo what he needed to use as words to instruct him, what he needed to go and tell the servants to do. And he said that Lorenzo should have used in his instructions the word cover. And he used the word cover in two senses, as I told you, to mean that to lay the table out, cover it with a tablecloth and get the food ready on it. And it also meant that he should have been told by Lorenzo to go and inform the servants to have their heads covered with their hats so that they would be ready to take them off when they would enter to have dinner as a mark of respect. And then Lorenzo says, if that is what he wanted him to use as a word to instruct him to go and tell the other servants, it was fine with him. And then he went on to say, well, cover then, sir, means he should go and tell the servants to have their heads covered with their hats and get ready to welcome them for dinner. And Lancelot then in reply said, not so, sir, neither. I know my duty. And when Lorenzo used the word cover, he then very cleverly, like a good clown, he said, not so, sir, neither I know my duty. He said there was no need for him to use that word because he as a servant knew his duty very well, what needed to be done. He knew all the customs and etiquettes, the manners that servants needed to follow in those days. They needed to stand bareheaded, means without a headgear or a hat, in the presence of their masters and superiors. So he said that he very well knew the customs and the etiquettes, the manners which needed to be followed by him and the others as a servant to show their respect to their masters. And there was no need for him to remind him to go and ask the servants to cover their heads. Lorenzo says, in reply to him, yet more quarreling with occasion, wilt thou show the whole wealth of thy wit in an instant? I pray thee, understand the plain man in his plain meaning. So he was surprised that this person, this clown, was making meaning of every word more than what the words literally meant, what the words actually meant, the literal meaning of the words. So he told him that he was still taking that opportunity, that chance to debate about on the word cover and make more meaning out of it. So he said he was still ready and taking every chance, every opportunity to carry on debating with making different meanings of that word cover. And would he not stop? In other words, wilt thou show the whole wealth of thy wit in an instant? And he questioned him to know, would he display the entire range and abundance The wealth means how much he knew as far as words were concerned. Would he display the entire range and abundance of his ability with the use of words and his knowledge of knowing the different meanings of words on that one single occasion while talking to him at that point of time, and on that one single occasion while he was in conversation with him? I pray thee understand a plain man in his plain meaning. So he requested him to kindly not make meanings of the words that he was using. Instead, understand what he was saying to him as a very straightforward man, with the literal meanings of the words, what he was using to instruct him with, and not make more meanings of them. So he said to kindly understand him in a very simple way, as he was a simple man using simple language and simple words. There was no need for him and that he not try to make more meanings of the words that he was using to instruct him with. Then he went on to say, go to thy fellows, bid them cover the table, serve in the meat, and we will come in to dinner. So he said that he should go in and tell the other servants in the kitchen, inside the house. Bid them means ask them, instruct them to cover the table, get the table covered with a tablecloth, set it, lay it out ready. Serve the meat, have them served in the containers, and position them, place them on the table, and keep it all ready. Tell them to be ready as well to welcome them when they arrive, on their arrival. And he and his wife Jessica would soon come in to have dinner. And then Lancelot went on to speak and say, for the table, sir, it shall be served in. For the meat, sir, it shall be covered. So again, a fool he was. Very difficult for him to get away from his habit. He deliberately again misused the words, interchanging their places in his speech, and got the whole instruction, the meaning of the instruction which Lorenzo had used and given him, getting it all wrong, misinterpreting the entire meaning by interchanging these two words. The words he should have actually said that the table would be covered and the meat would be served, but he said that the table, sir, it shall be served in was ready, and the meat, sir, shall be covered. He should have said the table would be ready and the meat would be, the table would be ready and covered with a tablecloth, and the meat would be ready, which would be served. But he got it all, the meaning entirely wrong, by misinterpreting and interchanging the words in his speech. For your coming into dinner, sir, while let it be as humors and conceits shall govern. And he then went on to say, as far as Lorenzo and Jessica were concerned, their coming to have a dinner, let them do it according to their desires, according to their whims, whims, according to their own whims, according to their own desires, and according to their own fancies according to their own decisions. Let them come in to have dinner as per their own whims and as per their own fancies, as per their own suitability and convenience. Then Lorenzo went on to say, after Lancelot had left, he was still not over with the kind of ability that this fool had with his quality to use words and the different meanings to his advantage. So he was awestruck and he was surprised, and he went on to say to Jessica while talking with Jessica, "Oh dear discretion, how his words are suited." He said, admiring this fellow's quality and ability to differentiate the meanings, to understand the different meanings of different words, and use them all very cleverly to suit his purpose, to suit his cause, and to his advantage. That is what it all means. Oh dear discretion, how his words are suited. Oh dear discretion, how he was so intelligent, clever, and cunning to be able to understand the different meanings of words, and use the different meanings of the words, fit them all to his advantage, pick and choose according to his own free will, and fit the meanings to his advantage, to help his own purpose, to suit his own cause. The fool hath planted in his memory an army of good words, and I do know many fools that stand in better place garnished like him, that for a tricksy word defy the matter. And he said, this fool, this clown, this jester, Lancelot, had stored, had built up, had stored in his memory a huge stock of appropriate, correct words. He had created, he had built up, he had stored, he had created a repository, a reserve of words, a stock words in his memory. He had built a huge stock of words in his memory and kept them stored. Appropriate words, correct words for his use. And he knew the different meanings of the words and how to use the different meanings of those words to suit his purpose and his cause and to his advantage. And then he went on to say that he knew many fools who were as capable and as talented with the same kind of stock of words which he had built up and stored in his memory and mind. He knew many such fools with the same kind of ability that Lancelot had in him, with the same kind of stock of words that Lancelot had built up and stored in his memory. He knew many such fools who were in better positions in life than Lancelot the fool was in. And he said the next thing, that many fools that stand in better place garnish like him. Garnish like him has two meanings. Garnish like him means the way he was dressed like a court jester, like a court clown, which he was not. He was just serving Bassanio who was a rich man, but he was bankrupt, he had no money. So he knew many fools who were as capable with the same kind of stock of words which this man had created a reserve of in his memory. Appropriate words, correct words which he used to his advantage. He knew many such fools with the same kind of ability, but they were in better positions in life and doing economically better than him. And they were mostly court poets, serving the rich, entertaining the rich. Garnished like him means they too dressed up like this man who was dressed like a court poet, which he was not. They dressed up because they were actually court poets. Garnished means, so he had this uniform, this livery, 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 Livery. Livery means uniform. This uniform he had, and there was this extra braid, Braid, braid meaning this, these threads which were intertwined, just like the braids which girls have, they make with their hair. The hair, the plaits are intertwined, to make braids. So he had an extra one, if you remember from the previous acts where Bassanio had ordered that his uniform be a special one to show that he was treated differently compared to the other servants who worked for Bassanio, and that he was favored by Bassanio. He had this extra braid on his livery, on his uniform, just like the clowns who used to entertain in the royal households, the rich and the royal people in the palaces. But he was not, Lancelot was not a court clown. So, though he was garnished like them and they dressed up like him in a similar way, they were in better positions in life, in society and economically. He was not, though he was dressed up just like them in the attire or uniform of a court clown. Then he went on to say, but those clowns he knew who were in better positions in life, in society and economically, money-wise, they used words very authoritatively, with authority. And people under their authority, the way they used words with authority, tend to believe that the words which they used were all accurate, the meanings of the words were accurate and reliable, could be depended on. These fools, he knew, he said, were in better positions in life and society compared to Lancelot. They used words with more than one meaning just to create a good effect on the people who would listen to them just for show, but they confused the people with the different meanings of those words and failed to explain the true meanings of those words, the true meanings use the words to explain. And in most cases, these fools would avoid explaining clearly with the words they used the real thing they were supposed to have explained. Again, I repeat in simple terms, he said that he knew many fools who were in better positions in life compared to Lancelot with the same ability which he had, but they used words just to create a good effect on the people whom they spoke with. And they used words only for show. They used words with double meanings, meanings more than what the word necessarily or should have had. And they do it just to confuse the people. And they always avoid explaining or bringing out the true meanings of the things which they were supposed to explain clearly. By using those words, they fail to do so. So that is the meaning of that. And then that is the meaning of that. For a tricksy word defy the matter. They use words to trick the people, confusing them with double meanings, but they always avoid to explain the real thing which they are